the County Official Training Fund, as I'm sure you're all aware, this has been a discussion that's been building across several legislative sessions, several offices as we move forward. Of course, the county assessors they're almost an entirely different animal because they're pre-election training. To be on the ballot, you have to be a level 2 assessor moving forward. If you're an incumbent, only a level 2. If you're a challenger, it's a level 3. I don't know if anybody knew that, but this past year they passed this bill that gave the incumbents another grace period on their level 3. But anyway, that has a separate funding stream to fund that training. The other offices, looking at professionalizing their services and being good stewards of the tax dollar, have developed a training fund. First, it was the county recorders and the county clerks to have mandatory post-election training. And then last year, the auditors and the treasurers were added to that. The surveyors, a few years there in the midterm. So every county office, apart from the council and the commissioners, which I know I've said this to your groups as well, that might be who needs the training the most. Everybody else has now at least some level of statutorily required training, whether that's pre-election or post-election, with different penalties involved if you don't do it. For your all's office, treasurers and auditors, there is no penalty on whether or not you miss the hourly requirements. And again, the hours are not meant to be a burden or to take up too much of your time. It's really just an acknowledgement that you're going to the courses that you're already supposed to be going to, State Board of Accounts meetings, throw in an AIC meeting or a class in there, your affiliate breakouts at these meetings, district meetings too, all of those count. And really, just to keep up on the changes in statute, you need to have some participation in, or else you may not know what you need to be doing. But we also know that as the tax revenues have gotten tighter, that we need to find a funding stream for these training requirements. And so what has happened is that the recorder's office had a fee for Social Security number redactions. And since that has been largely accomplished, I think, though we still have the new recording instruments coming in, and those need to be redacted as well, all the old Social Security numbers that were out there in the public record should, I think, at this point be non-disclosed. But they still have this fee. So what has happened is that half of that money is now dumping into the county officials training fund, which can be used if you're an eligible officer, so you've been reelected underneath the new training requirements is the fundamental rule. You are able to tap into this fund. Now, it's not enough, and I think we're even thinking about changing the title to County Official Supplemental Training Fund, because the State Board of Accounts statute that says that those conferences have to be paid out of the general fund, those have not changed. It's really just travel, expenses like that. We know that's required to attend. You have to do some travel. You have to pay for meals, etc. We really want to try to set up as much money there available to make this training happen, because we know how valuable it is to your office and the taxpayers. And so we need to find some other revenue streams. And of course, none of these proposals are in a bill or anything like that. It's really just kind of what we're thinking about internally in our office. One would be a tax sale registration fee. We just had a long discussion here about tax sales, and I think we're going to be talking a lot about them this session. So to purchase or bid on a lien at a tax sale, do you want to require a $5 registration fee or something like that? It may not even need to be that high. But again, since that's a service provided by two of the offices, the auditor and the treasurer, that now have county mandated training, I mean, would that be helpful if that was kind of how we linked in some revenue for that training? I think that's a fine idea. I'm sure, there's probably issues with all of these, but one thing to think about. And I should really preface all this discussion about fees. If it's a transaction fee, and we see this with the recorder's fee too, transaction fees aren't that great if you don't have a whole lot of transactions in your county. I mean, a big county, I mean, where thousands of things are going through the recorder's office every week, I mean, no problem generating money out of a fee. Rural county where you don't see a lot of this, whether it's, you know, people bidding on tax sales or people recording documents, it's hard to generate the sufficient revenue for a fee. So that's just one thing we have to consider when we're doing this. Again, with the tax sale, another idea, and this is kind of, you know, do we want tax sales to be an investment tool for individuals rather than, hey, we want to get properties in your county? Do we want to take a portion of the redemption from either the 10 or the 15% and use that? And that's, you know, I don't have a specific figure in mind. We'd have to look at the fiscal consequences of it. Do we want to take a portion of the redemption fee, still do the 10 or 15% on the property owner who's redeeming, but to the bidder on the lien, take a little bit of that percentage off of that for them? Again, with the auditors, maybe a little bit out of the homestead duplication fund. I mean, I forget which county it was. Maybe St. Joe has $1 million in there. Maybe some of that could be used for county official trade, not just for all the state from St. Joe County, but but maybe for those elected officials in that county, that could be used. You know, some of these funds are, of course, you know, right now that money could be used by the auditors for their auditors training. It's the same thing for the recorder's perpetuation fund. If those classes are for records perpetuation, they can use that money for training. You know, the treasurer's a little bit more difficult because all the money they collect is dedicated to the taxing units themselves. So, you know, you don't want to put a fee on, hey, you paid your taxes and we need a $2 training fee for coming into our office too. That may not make anybody really happy. But, and again, you know, you try to add on little percentages to certain things. I know there's counties can maintain or keep a certain amount of the overpayments of, you know, people paying a few bucks over it. I mean, use that for training or something like that. I mean, again, we're not talking big amount of money here, but the goal is to have all these different offices that are taking or that are eligible to use this training fund to be contributing some of the money to keep it solvent. So that's really the goal. I mean, if we can look at some of these, I mean, particularly through the tax sale process, and I'm not picking on that, that's just kind of been the subject of a lot of discussion here, and maybe an opportunity for some transactional fees to get generated. That may be a source to kind of fund some of these training requirements, which is really what it's about. So that's really the quick summary. I would like to have any feedback if people have comments or questions about that, because this is an issue that these statutory requirements come down on you, though have been requested by all of your affiliates, so I certainly don't take responsibility for if you're disgruntled about this. But if you do have any suggestions about how to raise some revenue, I'm all ears, because I mean, we don't want to increase taxes unless it's for, you know, core government services, really, especially in this environment. But clearly, having well-trained local officials is a good thing for the taxpayers too.